Hello students, welcome to the next module. Today, we'll start with a new topic of chapter 13, magnetic effects of electric current, that is force on a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field. As you can see this experimental setup, we have AB as a rod, right, which acts as a conductor. Then we have a horseshoe magnet, a U-shaped magnet placed over here. Okay, this rod is connected to an external circuit where you can see the plug key and a battery attached. Okay, the entire setup, that is the metallic rod, has been hooked up to a stand. Okay, now what is a horseshoe magnet? A horseshoe magnet is something like this. It's a U-shaped magnet having properties of a bar magnet only, right? Here, as we know, this particular dot, white dot, represents the north pole of the magnet, and here the magnetic field lines will be moving again from the north pole to the south pole outside the magnet, right? So this particular pole represents the north pole. Now in this setup, as we can see, this rod, metallic rod, has been placed, and this rod is connected to an external circuit. Now what happens when we place this horseshoe magnet over here, right? Now, as we already know that the metallic rod, since it's connected to an external circuit, current is going to flow from the positive terminal of the battery to the negative terminal. And due to this flow of current, some magnetic properties will be produced because as a result of magnetic effect of electric current, right? So what will happen? Some magnetic properties will be present here. So if I place this, now these magnetic properties, these magnetic effects have been created due to conduction. Why due to conduction? Because we have connected the rod to an external circuit. Okay, now if I place this particular horseshoe magnet over here, this U-shaped magnet over here, this magnet will also experience certain magnetic properties. So the magnetic properties due to the external circuit and the magnetic properties of this horseshoe magnet, what will happen? They will interact with one another. So both of them possess certain magnetic effects. So as a result of that interaction of magnetic field created by a external circuit connected to a metallic rod and that of a horseshoe magnet, there will be displacement in this metallic rod. So this displacement is due to creation or due to the presence of a force, right? And which force is that? That's a magnetic force, we can say. And this force is always proportional to BIL, right? Now, F stands for force. This is a proportionality symbol. B stands for magnetic field strength. Greater the magnetic field strength, greater will be the displacement in the rod. Greater the amount of current in the circuit, greater will be the displacement, greater will be the force created. More the length of this metallic rod, greater the length of this metallic rod AB, greater will be the force exerted, right? So what will happen? As I repeat it again, the metallic rod is connected to an external circuit. When we connect this external circuit, when we switch on, or we can say when we plug in this key, what will happen? The circuit will be complete. The electric current will be flowing through this circuit. It will be creating some magnetic effects. Now, if I bring this particular horseshoe magnet, which is also already having some magnetic properties because of its nature, now the magnetic properties of the circuit that has been created and the magnetic properties of this magnet, they will interact with one another, right? So they will interfere with one another, causing a displacement, a motion, a movement in this metallic rod. So we can say, why will a movement take place? Because of the force created. And what is this force proportional to? It is proportional to the magnetic field strength. It is directly proportional to current, and it is also proportional to length of the rod. Now the question arises that can we know the direction of the force? Like in which particular direction is the rod going to move? Yes, we can find it out using Fleming's left-hand rule. In the initial classes, in the initial tutorial, we have we have already studied the right-hand thumb rule, the Maxwell corkscrew rule. What was that? If we stretch our right hand, the thumb points in the direction of current and the direction in which our fingers fold, the other fingers fold, gives us the direction of the magnetic field. In case of Fleming's left hand rule, right? So here in the Fleming's left hand rule, so we are going to take our left hand over here, right? And we will hold it in such a manner, and we take the first three fingers, the thumb, the forefinger and the middle finger, right? So we have the thumb, the forefinger and the middle finger. Now what is the role of the thumb? The thumb shows us the direction of force, the direction of displacement of the rod, right? The forefinger, this particular finger, gives the direction of magnetic field, right? And the middle finger gives the direction of electric current, right? So what does the rule state? If I take three fingers of my left hand in such a way that I hold them mutually perpendicular to one another. Say they are mutually perpendicular to one another. How mutually perpendicular? They are at 90 degree. They are making a 90-degree angle with one another, right? So if I say that the direction, this finger points in the direction of magnetic field, this particular finger gives the direction of current, and the direction of the thumb shows the direction of force which is being acted upon the rod. So if I say that in this case, let's say I place this particular horseshoe magnet in such a direction, right? So always remember the magnetic field is going to be directed from North Pole to South Pole, right? I'm just giving it as an example. So what is the direction of the magnetic field? If I take my three fingers, remember the direction of the magnetic field, this is the direction of the magnetic field. So the direction of the magnetic field would be in this particular direction, right? It's in this direction. From north, this finger is pointing, giving the direction of the magnetic field. So the direction of the magnetic field is like this. The direction, let's say the direction of current is this way, right? This finger is giving the direction of current. So the direction of your thumb gives the direction of the force that is being acted upon. So we can say that the force here is acting in this particular direction. That is, it's moving the rod in the upward direction, right? What if I change the direction of the magnetic field? If I change the direction of the magnetic field, then also you will see that the direction of force will change, right? So we can interpret this with the help of Fleming's left hand rule. I hope it's clear to you, students. So in Fleming's left hand rule, we are supposed to take three fingers, hold them mutually perpendicular to one another, such that the forefinger, this is the forefinger, the first finger gives the direction of magnetic field, the middle finger gives the direction of current, and the thumb gives the direction of force or displacement of the rod, right? Now, when is the force said to be maximum? Remember, force will be maximum on a conductor or a metallic rod when the magnetic field, right, the direction of magnetic field and the direction of current, they are mutually perpendicular to one another. They are forming a 90-degree angle between one another. Then we say that the force is maximum on the rod. So when is the force maximum? The force is maximum when the direction of current and that of magnetic field are at 90 degree. They make an angle of 90 degree. I hope it's clear, right? So you have to do this activity 13.7 and you have to memorize this particular relation that F is proportional to BIL, right? Likewise, Fleming's left hand rule is utmost important, and based upon the Fleming's left hand rule, we have a device, we'll be studying a device which is known as an electric motor. So our next topic would be an electric motor, right? So what is an electric motor and what does it consist of? Even in your exam point of view, even for examination point of view, please memorize that you have to follow this particular pattern, right? I'll be guiding you what all has to be written, how it has to be written, but let us first of all understand what an electric motor is, right? So electric motor, you must have come across this term electric motor in a number of gadgets. For example, the mixers that we use, right? The mixers at home that we make use of has a motor. Then we have refrigerators, electric fans, washing machine, computers. They make use of electric motors. What are electric motors? What is its function? Why do we use that? So an electric motor is a device that converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. So a device for converting electrical energy into mechanical energy is known as an electric motor. Now, what does an electric motor consist of? An electric motor, first of all, let's say it consists of two permanent magnets. As we can say N and S, this represents the two poles of the permanent magnet, that is North Pole and South Pole. In between the permanent magnet, we have an insulated copper wire, right? So this is also known as, it's a rectangular frame of insulated copper wire. This is also known as the armature, right? This armature, the end of the armature is connected to the split ring, right? As you can see, these split rings, these bangle, semicircular bangle type structure, as you can see, right? So P and Q is the split ring, and the armature is connected to the split ring with the help of brushes X and Y. These two dotted structures, these are known as the carbon brushes, right? What is their function? Why are they used? We will study it gradually, right? Now these split rings are attached over an axle kind of a structure. This is a cylindrical piece and it can be moved, right? Now these brushes are connected to an external circuit which simply consists of a battery and a plug key. So it's a simple structure having permanent magnet, an armature, split ring, brushes, axle and an external circuit. So how is an electric energy being converted into a mechanical energy? We'll just study that phenomena. But before that, its working principle, it is based upon Fleming's left hand rule. So here the direction of motion is very important. The direction of force is very important, right? So we'll be studying that. So we start with the components. I've already told you. The role of the magnets is to create a magnetic field, right? The motion of this armature, it's a frame kind of structure. So it will produce the mechanical energy. How it will produce? It will be converted from electrical energy through the use of these components into mechanical energy, right? So if we remember Fleming's left hand rule, what all do we require? We require the direction of current. We require the direction of magnetic field, right? So as we connect these carbon brushes to an external circuitry, the current starts flowing from positive terminal to the negative terminal, right? So current start flowing in this particular direction. So if I consider this particular arm, the current in this arm is flowing from A to B, right? So with Fleming's left hand rule, as we already know, we have to find out the direction of rotation of this armature. We already know that, the electric current has been produced, and due to this electric current, some magnetic properties will be there. Due to the interference of these magnetic properties created by the circuit and the magnetic properties which are already possessed by the permanent magnets, their interaction will take place, due to which a force will be produced, and that force will move the armature. Let us know the direction of the motion of this armature, the direction of force that is being acted on the armature, right? So for this, we'll use Fleming's left hand rule. So let us stretch our three fingers. Again, this gives you the direction of magnetic field, right? So magnetic field is being directed. All you need to do is you have to stretch these three fingers in 90 degree, and then we will set it according to the direction, right? So what is the direction of the magnetic field here? The direction of the magnetic field is this way, right? So I have turned my fingers in such a manner that, as you can see, this particular direction shows the direction of magnetic field from north to south. What is the direction of current in arm AB? It's here in this particular direction. So where is my thumb pointing? The thumb is pointing in the downward direction. So this means the force will be acting in the downward direction. So as a result, we know using Fleming's left hand rule, what will happen? The current is flowing in this direction. The magnetic field is from North Pole to South Pole, the direction of force will be downward, right? So if AB moves in the downward direction, CD will move in the upward direction. It has to be like this, right? Suppose if I have a piece of paper, right? I move this piece of paper. Let's say these are the four corners. This is A, this is B, this is C, and this is D, right? So if I move this AB in the downward direction, so my CD is going to come up, right? So this has to be like this. So what happens? My AB comes down, but my CD goes up, right? Remember, these carbon brushes are at a fixed position. They are not moving. What is moving is these split rings, right? And this axle, they are rotating, right? So with the split ring, the axle is also rotating. So what will happen? My P will come here and my Q will come here, right? So as a result, after this, AB gets converted into CD after half a rotation, and this becomes AB, right? Now, as you can see, what will be the direction? The direction of the current will be again from positive terminal to the negative terminal. So now the current will be moving again in this direction. It will be moving through CD. So earlier, if we remember, CD had come up. Now CD will go down again, right? And AB will come up. Initially AB went down. Now AB will come up. So what will happen? The armature will continuously, it will keep on rotating. So due to its continuous rotation, what is happening? The electrical energy is getting converted into mechanical energy due to the armature coil, right? So that's why we say that an electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy, right? So this is how, an electric motor works. So the split rings here that they are used. What is the role of the split rings? The role of the split rings is that it helps in the reversal of the direction of current, or it reverses the direction of current in the circuit, right? So that's why these split rings are also known as commutator. So what is the function of a split ring? Split rings, they help in the reversal of the direction of current, and for this purpose they are also known as commutators. Okay, XY are the carbon brushes. What are they doing? They are providing, or they are acting as an interface between the external circuit and the armature coil. So what is happening? The current from the external circuit is flowing through these carbon brushes into the armature coil. Okay, so that's the role of the carbon brushes, and we've already studied the role of the split rings. What is the role of the armature coil? The role of the armature coil is it is used to increase the power of the motor. So armature coil always increases the power of a motor, right? So in the working part, I'll be sending you notes where you'll be, describing proper working of this electric motor, and you'll be memorizing it in such a way. So how are you supposed to attempt this question? So it will be, first of all, you'll be defining what an electric motor is, followed by a proper labeled diagram, then the working principle, the components, right? The working and the function of each component, the working of the electric motor and the function of the components that are used, and the last of all would be its uses or applications, right? I hope it's clear to you, students. Okay, with this we come to the end of this topic. Today we have already studied about the force on a current carrying conductor. What are the factors on which that force depends? Then we've studied Fleming's left hand rule, and based upon Fleming's left hand rule we have studied the device called electric motor. Okay, please revise till here until we meet in the next module, in the next class. Thank you.